Okay, section 5.4 is titled Polynomial and Rational Inequalities, and we're going to depart from the way that the book and maybe some of the videos you may have watched on the My Math Lab tutorials, kind of the way they've done these problems. We're gonna treat them a little bit differently, and we're actually going to work them more or less using the calculator and looking at the graph of the of part of that inequality we're graphing. And so the first thing we're going to look at is how to locate the zeros of a function using a graphing calculator. And once we do that, we'll look at actually solving polynomial and rational inequalities and see what all is involved there with that. So first, I've got some steps here to locate zeros using a graphing calculator. And you can download these notes. They are available in Blackboard in the class materials section. So if you want to download these and print them out or have them for reference, you're welcome to do that. But I'm going to walk you through a couple of examples here of finding some zeros using a graphing calculator. Okay, so let me first get the function typed into the calculator. It says, the first couple of steps is, the first step is to just to get your function graphed. So let's do that, and I'm going to go ahead and use the function we're going to start with on the first example. You skip down here, and that's x plus 3 times x minus 1 squared. So I'm going to go ahead and just use that for our first example. So x plus 3 times x minus 1 squared. Here's the graph of that function. And so when we say we're looking for the zeros of this this function, that's, remember, the same as the x-intercepts. And so we're also looking for the x-intercepts of this function. And if you were paying attention in the section about polynomial functions, you should know just from this function that we expect to find zeros at -3 and at +1, just because of the roots of that function, x plus 3 and x minus 1. I'm sorry, the factors of that function. Those two factors give us zeros at -3 and +1. But let's say we didn't know that, and we were just wanting to look at this graph here and determine where those zeros were. Now again, zeros are the same as x-intercepts, so you should be able to look at this graph and see that we do have what appears to be two x-intercepts, one here on the left and the other somewhere here at the right. And there's a couple of ways we can determine what those x-intercepts are. One way, the way that I'm going to show you, is by we call it calculating the zeros of the function, and that's what these steps back here in the notes are going over. So step 2 says to hit second trace and then option number 2. So let me go back to the calculator. Second trace, oops. If you hit second and then your trace button, which is up here next to graph, that's your calculate menu. And of course we said we want to calculate zeros, so we can hit number 2 for that second option. Now it's going to give us a couple of questions here. The first one is left bound. And what the calculator is asking, it's basically saying, okay, I know you want to calculate a zero, but where specifically are you looking on this graph for a zero? So we have to give it basically an idea of where to look on the graph for this zero. So what we need to do is go using our left and right arrow keys. I'm going to hit the left arrow until you can see the little cursor moving, until I'm on the left side of this first zero here. So you just hit left until you're on the left side, in this case below this x-intercept, and once you're there you hit enter. And now it wants to know what's the right bound of where you're looking. So you hit right and now go to the right side. Okay, now I'm on the right side of that zero and hit enter. And it's going to ask you for a best guess. If you'll just hit enter one more time, it's going to take you straight to where that zero is. We have an x value of -3. So that's where that zero is. It's at -3, which again we said we knew that from the function, but we can see that this gives us that zero pretty easily there, and we can do that whole process again if we want to look at this other zero here where it touches the x-axis. We can hit second trace again, go to number 2. Again, we want to go to the left side for the left bound of this x-intercept, so I'm going to arrow over here. Right there, I'm on the left side of my x-intercept, so hit enter, and then go to the right until I pass across that x-intercept. Now I'm on the right side, hit enter again, and then for the guess, just punch enter one more time, and there's a 0 at x equal 1. And so now we know where the zeros of that function are, at -3 and +1. So that's one way you can use your calculator to help identify where those zeros are. And hopefully that's something you will find useful. And we're going to use that in the rest of this section here as far as solving these inequalities.